Hello everybody, welcome back to American Textbook Reading. I'm Brian Stuart, and in this lesson we're taking a look at Social Studies Book 3, Lesson 13. And Lesson 13 is about weather and climate. Ooh, are you cold or are you hot? Okay. In this unit you will discover what climates are, and we'll also talk about different climates in the United States. So let's take a look. As usual, we start with the vocabulary, and our first word, very appropriate, is climate, right? We just used that word. It's a little bit of a difficult word, isn't it? But climate just means the weather in an area over a long period of time. So you might think, well, what's the difference between climate and weather? Climate, when you think about climate, you're thinking about a very long time period. When you're thinking about the weather, it could just be today. If it's raining today, we're talking about the weather today. It's raining. But maybe it doesn't rain every day of the year. Maybe you live in a desert and it only rains 3 days a year. So the weather might be rainy today, but the climate for the desert is dry and hot. No rain or very little rain. So that is the difference between climate and weather. Climate is a very long range or long period of time. What is the weather like over a long period of time? Weather is just, you're talking about it very short, today, tomorrow, next week. What will the weather be like? So climate is a long period, weather is a short period. Okay, so the weather in an area over a long period of time. What is the climate like in your country? What is the typical weather like in your country? Okay. Next, we have weather report. And on television, you can see people, meteorologists. Remember, we talked about meteorologists in a previous lesson. Meteorologist, meteor is from Greek. It means weather, right? People who study the weather. Weather report is a report that predicts the weather conditions. So you see a meteorologist on television, and she's talking about, Friday it will be partly cloudy. Saturday there will be a few showers, a little bit of rain. But Sunday it'll be sunny. So the weekend isn't completely ruined. At least you can enjoy the outdoors on Sunday. Okay, but probably it's Thursday today, and she's giving us the weather report. What will the weather be like in the near future? Tomorrow, the next day, the day after that, and maybe next week. It's very hard to predict weather for a very long period in the future. For example, after 1 week, the weather report usually isn't very accurate. It's very difficult to predict the weather 1 week from now, okay? But within a week, we can get pretty accurate weather reports. Okay. Storm. A storm is a type of weather condition, and it's very bad weather with strong winds, rain, lightning, that's electricity coming out of the clouds. Zeus is very angry. No, of course, that's the old Greek god, right? The god of lightning, thunder and lightning. But lightning is the flash of light that you see. It's electricity in the air. And thunder. Thunder is a really loud sound you hear after you see the flash of light. Lightning and thunder. Okay, thunder and lightning. Okay, so that's a storm. Very bad weather. And we have a picture of a storm. Now, like I said, a storm, and we can see that there are very high winds. They're very high winds. And if you're at the ocean or you're at the beach, those winds will cause the waves to be very large. So during a storm, it's a good idea to stay away from the beach, right? Don't play in the water because the water is going to be very strong. But the storm pushes the winds push the water, and that makes very big waves. And of course, a lot of rain will come. They'll see some lightning and hear some thunder. Okay. Next, we have lightning. As I said before, lightning is a sudden bright light caused by electricity in the sky. Electricity in the sky? Who turned on the light switch? No, of course there's no light switch. It's just electric power, of course, is caused by different charged particles in the atmosphere interacting with the ground, right? And the energy in the clouds wants to release itself and go into the ground where there's less energy, so it will form lightning. Electricity will form out of thin air and just come down and maybe hit the ground. You don't want to be on the ground where the lightning hits. And that's why many buildings have a metal pole, because that will attract the lightning. We call those lightning rods. A lightning rod is a metal pole on top of a building, so the lightning will hit the pole and not hit the people walking around the street. Whew. So lightning rods are important to protect people and buildings, right? The metal can absorb the electricity and the heat and it won't burn. So it's better that the lightning hits the lightning rod than it hits you or your house made of wood and burns. So lightning rods. So sudden bright light caused by electricity in the sky. Next, electricity. What is electricity? As you know, electricity is a form of energy that gives power to machines and lights, right? We have lots of lights. You have lots of lights in your house, right? You use your computer. You turn it on. That means you supply electricity to your computer. Without electricity, your computer won't work, your phone won't work. A lot of devices that you have will not work without electricity. Next, we have fit. Now, fit has a lot of different meanings, but in this case, fit means that it's good enough for something. It's fit. If you say, I am fit, right, that means you're healthy. I am fit. You're healthy. You're good. Well, you're always good enough for something. You're always good. But fit, in this case, this one, I am fit means I am healthy, right? Strong, right? Capable. Fit also means that if you put on a shirt or a coat, it fits you well, right? It fits. It's not too big. It's not too small. It's fit. It fits you. It's good enough for you. Okay, so that's what that means there. Okay, the last word is chance. And chance, what is chance? Chance is a possibility that something might happen. And we can have small chances or large chances. Chance just, we don't know what the future will hold. The future has many possibilities, and we can choose those possibilities in most cases. This is a good picture because it shows the different possibilities for your future, right? Maybe this one you will open. Now, like I said, there are big chances and small chances. Now, I don't want to discourage anybody, but what is the chance that you might become a famous singer, right? It's a small chance. I'm sorry, but you have to work hard. You have to put a lot of effort to become a famous singer. Not many people become famous singers or athletes. The chance for doing that is very small. But what's the chance of you growing up and being a father or a mother? The chance is a lot larger because that's very common. Many people do that. And it's just kind of a normal thing to do in life. So the chance of being a mother or father is very big. The chance of becoming a famous person like a musician or an athlete is very small. So we have big chances and small chances. Small chances and large chances. They're just possibilities that something might happen. Okay, those are our words for today. Okay, let's talk about the two main ideas in this lesson. The first idea is about different climates in different parts of the United States. Up on the top here, you can see we have a map. And the first box, it says California. And in the second box, it says Maine. The map is a little small, so let's just very quickly move on in there and zoom in. And you can see that this is the United States of America. There are many, many states here. There are 50 states in America, but not all 50 states are here. Hawaii and Alaska are not shown on this map. They're in different places. But anyway, California, you can see, is over here. It's on the West Coast. This is the West Coast of America. And Maine is up here. Look how far north that is. That's really far north. What happens when you move north? it gets colder, right? So California and Maine have very different climates. California's on the west coast, and actually it's southern. It's a little bit southern, and Maine is way up here. It's north. So the climates of both states are very different. And actually, I want to put a little bit more detail in here. When you look at California, you see how long the state is? It's really long. Actually, there's a different climate in Northern California than in Southern California. In Northern California, it's very rainy. In Southern California, it's drier, it's much warmer, and not as much rain. So, zooming back out, we see California. What is the climate like? Warm and dry in the summer. So that's true, warm and dry in the summer, especially for Southern California. And what do people need in this climate? Well, they need cool air in buildings, sure, because in Southern California, especially in the summertime, it gets hot. So people need air conditioning, cool air in buildings. They should also wear light clothes. Light clothes, a t-shirt, probably shorts, nothing heavy. It would be very hot to be running around in LA in August in a full suit. Whew, that's too hot, right? Of course, you don't go to work in a t-shirt and shorts, but light clothes would be more appropriate. And of course, umbrellas. You need umbrellas more often in Northern California where it rains a lot. It rains almost every day in Northern California. Okay, so a little bit different climates just even in the state of California. But these climates are much different from Maine. In Maine, it's very cold and snowy in the winter. It doesn't really snow in Los Angeles hardly at all. It probably doesn't snow at all during the whole year. It would be very rare. Sure, it could happen, but it's very rare if it does happen. But in Maine, it snows a lot in the winter. It's not rare at all. They get a lot of snow. They get, several feet of snow. So it's very cold and snowy in the winter. And of course, it's very far north. In fact, it's interesting about Maine. Maine is further north than some parts of Canada. Many people in Canada live close to the United States. So the people who live in Maine are actually living farther north than many people in Canada. Okay? So that's very interesting. So it's very cold in the winter. And in the winter, you need warm air in buildings, heaters, central heating. You also need warm clothes, thick jackets, and probably many clothes, layers like thermal underwear, then a shirt, and then maybe a light jacket or a sweater, and then a heavy jacket on top of that, right? And you also need gloves to protect your hands, and you need a hat to protect your head. A lot of your body heat escapes from your head, so make sure if you're in cold weather, wear a hat. Keep that heat in. So of course, as we see on the bottom here, climate makes a difference in the way people live. Of course, the weather outside, the temperature outside will affect how you live. Will you go outside and play in the swimming pool, or will you go outside in a lot of clothes and make a snowman? Okay? The location of a place affects the climate and the weather. We know that. The further south you are, the warmer it is generally, and the further north you go, the colder it is. Generally, most of the time. But as you can see, America is a big country. So it's very difficult when an American goes to another country and the people say, what's the weather like in America? Well, it depends. Where are you from? So it's a very difficult question to answer. It's a very difficult question to answer. It all depends on where the American is from. If the American is from California, the weather is warm, dry, Southern California, warm, dry, hot in the summer. If the American is from Maine, it's cold, cool in the summer, but very cold in the winter. Okay, so America has a lot of different climates. Okay, well, it's good to look at climates in terms of states. California and Maine, but it's also important to look at specific areas of the United States and take a look at the climate in these areas. For example, states can be very big in the United States and they can have different weather patterns. As I mentioned, Northern California and Southern California have different weather. So the weather in San Francisco will be much different than the weather in Los Angeles, for example. Well, let's take a look around the United States at different cities and talk about the weather or the climates in these cities. Here in this page, we have Chicago, Miami, Washington, D.C., and Seattle. What are the climates like in these cities? Well, let's start with Chicago. Now, Chicago, it says three things: mild, hot summers, cold winters. But that's kind of a contradiction because mild, I mean, sure, it's mild in the spring and the fall. In other words, mild weather would be not too hot, not too cold. So sure, it would be mild in the spring, and in the fall, it's not too hot. It's probably perfect weather in the spring and the fall. But in the summertime, it gets really hot, and it's humid in Chicago too. Chicago is right on a lake, one of the Great Lakes between America and Canada. And Lake Michigan, Chicago is right on Lake Michigan, so they get a lot of moisture from the lake, and so it becomes humid and hot in the summertime. In the winter, however, it gets really cold. Chicago is north. It's in the northern part, not the absolute northern part, but it's a more northern city in the United States, and it gets very cold in the winter, and there's a lot of snow. So the climate really goes from one extreme to the other extreme, from summer to winter. And sure, it might be mild in the spring and the fall. Now, Miami is one of the, I don't know if it's the southernmost, I think it might be the southernmost, the most southern city in the continental United States. So in the continent, all the states that are all together, I think Miami is the southernmost large city. So obviously in the south, it's very hot, and it's actually a little tropical in Miami. Of course, a lot of Florida is jungle, so it's a tropical-like environment. So of course, Miami will be hot. It says dry summers. I don't agree with that. My brother lives in Florida, and in the summertime, it's very humid. It's uncomfortably humid. You go outside in a t-shirt and shorts, and you start sweating immediately because it's so hot and humid in Florida. So it's very hot summers, and it's very rainy also in their rainy season. Of course, they're mild. They have mild winters. Mild, again, means not severe or not extreme. So many people who live in the northern parts of the United States, especially in the on the East Coast, will move down to Florida and Miami for the winter time because they don't like snow. So we call these people snowbirds. A snowbird, because they're like the birds that fly south for the winter, and then when the winter's over, they fly back to the north to enjoy the nice, cooler summers. Because, of course, in Miami, it's too hot and too humid in the summertime. It's terrible. If you don't have air conditioning, it's really very difficult to be outside. Okay. Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is on the East Coast. It's in the middle. It's kind of in the middle part of the East Coast. However, even though it's in the middle part, it's still hot in the summertime, and they have a lot of rain. It says wet summers, but mild winters, yeah, depends on your definition of mild. Washington, D.C. can still get cold, and they do get snow. Sometimes they get big snowstorms, maybe not as bad as in Chicago or more northern states like we talked about in Maine, but they still do get kind of cold in the wintertime. So again, Washington, D.C. and Chicago, kind of the same. Hot, humid summers, cold winters, but Chicago is probably colder in the winters. Now, Seattle is our last city that we're taking a look at on this page. And whereas Chicago, Miami, and Washington, D.C. are more eastern states, Seattle is all the way on the west coast. But it's northern west coast. It's in the Pacific Northwest. And this picture is not a very good representative picture of Seattle. And the reason I say that is because the picture shows beautiful, clear blue skies. Now, of course, I'm sure that there are beautiful, clear skies in Seattle a lot of the time. But a lot of the time, most of the time, it's rainy in Seattle. Seattle gets a lot of rain. It says it's mild year-round. Okay, it's mild. That means it doesn't get too hot. It doesn't get too cold. That's true. It doesn't really snow that much in Seattle. And on the other hand, in the summertime, it doesn't really get that hot. But it's right on the coast, and it gets a lot of moisture that comes in off the Pacific Ocean. And it rains almost every day. There was a TV show I was watching. The TV show was set in Seattle. On every episode of that TV show, it was raining. It was like, wow, this city really rains a lot. And I've been there a couple of times, and it does rain a lot. Of course, that makes a lot of nice trees, a lot of nice greenery, very lush environment, lots of trees, lots of grass, lots of bushes. So it's very green in the Pacific Northwest, and Seattle is a very green city, but it gets a lot of rain. So, as we were talking about, the United States is a very big country. There are many different climate zones in the country, whether you're going from north to south or even from east to west. You also have different climate regions. Some regions are wet, get a lot of rain. Some regions are very dry, they're desert. Some regions in the north are very cold in the winter, and some regions in the south don't get any snow at all. So it's very difficult, if you meet somebody from America, don't say, well, what's the weather like in America? Because, what are they going to say? It depends on where they're from. So, of course, keep that in mind, right? The weather might be very different for someone who's from Miami as opposed to someone who's from Chicago or Seattle. So, of course, there's lots of different climates in the United States. How about your country? What is the climate there? If you live in a large country, maybe you have many different climates as well. If you live in a smaller country, maybe it's an easy question to ask or to answer, what's the weather like in your country? Okay, well, let's move on. Okay, let's do the reading passage together. And of course, we're talking about weather and climate. So as I read along, please repeat after me, or if that's not a good idea, repeat along in your mind if you're in a crowded place. And focus on the vocabulary in the lesson, and also see if you can pick up any new words. Okay, are you guys ready? Let's begin. The weather has a big effect on our daily lives. Climate is the weather of a place over a long time. It makes a difference in the way people live. The climates of some states are usually warm all year round. But to know more about the changing weather, we should watch the weather report. For example, the weather report says that tomorrow there will be a storm and lightning activity on the west coast of the U.S. Lightning means there is a lot of electricity in the air, so we should stay at home because it is dangerous outside. The weather report also says there is a chance of snow in Maine. A snowy day is fit for making snowmen. Children in Maine will wear warm clothes and have fun outside. That's true. If there's a lot of snow in the area that you live in, it's not, don't stay at home all day, right? Go out, have fun in the snow, have a snowball fight, right? Make a snowman, go sledding. There's many outdoor activities you can do in the winter and enjoy the snow. Okay, so how is this information organized in the reading passage? In this case, we have cause and effect, right? Cause is an action or something that happens, and then the result of that action is the effect, right? So you have a cause, action, and then a result or effect. So cause and effect. The cause is on the left-hand side and the effect is on the right-hand side. We have two. We have one cause, one effect, second cause, second effect. Let's take a look. Okay, so first one. The weather report says that there will be a beep and lightning activity. A what and lightning activity? In the reading passage, it says, the weather report says that there will be a storm and lightning activity. So a storm, of course, could be rain, could be snow, a snowstorm, rainstorm, thunderstorm. There's a lot of ways we describe storm, but in this case, it's just storm. We don't have to put storm. We don't have to put rain. It just said storm. So the weather report says there will be a storm and lightning activity. So what is the effect of that? What is the result? Well, in this case, it's advice, right? We should. Should means advice. So what is the result of that prediction, of that weather forecast? Well, the effect of that is advice. We should what? Beep at home. What should you do at home? You should stay at home, stay inside. So we should stay at home. Okay, that's the first cause and effect. Second cause and effect. The weather report says that there is a beep of snow in Maine. So this is very common for weather reports, right? It's very difficult to predict the future. And many people don't want to say there will be a 100% chance of something, right? So they will make it smaller. And it's very common people say there is, instead of, an 80% chance, 60% chance, 40% chance, sometimes people just say there is a chance of. So there is a chance of, and that's a very common thing to say, especially for weather reports. Oops, I put change. I meant change that G to a C. Yeah, it's when you're writing and talking at the same time, right? So chance, C-E, not G-E. Chance, G-E is change, right? But we want chance. The weather report says that there is a chance of snow in Maine. By the way, when somebody says there is a chance of something, that usually implies that there is a small chance, right? If you say there's a chance of snow, it means it could happen, but it's not likely. If people want to make it stronger, they will say there is a huge chance. In that case, that's like 80% chance of snow. There's a huge chance of snow in Maine. But if you just say there's a chance of snow, that's a small chance, right? That's a little chance, maybe 30%, 20% chance of snow. So it's not likely, okay? The weather report says there is a chance of snow in Maine. So the effect of that, children in Maine will wear beep clothes and have fun outside. Of course, if it does snow, children in Maine will wear what kind of clothes? Light clothes? No, they will wear heavy clothes, warm clothes. They will wear warm clothes. And of course, you can also say heavy clothes or winter clothes. You could also say summer or light clothes on the opposite side. Okay, so children in Maine will wear warm clothes and have fun outside, which is great. Go make a snowman. Have a snowball fight, but be careful with a snowball fight. Don't hit anybody in the head, right? Aim for their bodies. But that can be fun too. And of course, sledding as well. That's also a fun activity. Okay, so that wraps up this lesson for today. In this lesson, we took a look at climate, especially in the United States, and we saw that there are many different types of climate, lots of different areas or environments in which people live. And of course, climate, we're talking about the difference between climate and weather. Climate is the long-term or the weather patterns that exist for a long time in a certain area. Weather is just what's happening today, right? Or what will happen tomorrow or next week. Weather is just a short time when you're looking at the weather conditions. Climate is a long-term look at weather conditions. Okay, so what's the weather like in your country? I asked you that before. It's a good thing to think about. How can you describe it? I hope that after this lesson, you will be able to describe your weather to somebody else in English if they ask you. Okay, so that's it for this lesson. Hope to see you in the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.